Today's practical is a chicken stir fry, and we're going to be focusing on handling of raw meat and looking at cross-contamination a little bit more, but we're also going to look at the combination of two different dishes or two different ingredients being prepared at the same time, so what we call dovetailing. So it's where you've got more than one thing going on, a little bit of multitasking. And we're also going to look at how you can make a very simple sauce without the use of the ready-made stir-in sauces that do have quite a high sugar content. The ingredients for today, obviously I'm using a chicken fillets. I've got spring onions, I've got carrot and pepper, and then I've got Pak Choi, so it's like a Chinese lettuce. An alternative to this would be spinach, which would give the same kind of texture as the green. Obviously this bottom part of the Pak Choi is very, very crunchy, so you could use celery as an alternative to that. I've then got garlic and fresh ginger. You can use lazy garlic and lazy ginger very easily, very quick, and obviously they last a lot longer, but I thought it was a perfect opportunity to show you how to prepare fresh ginger. Noodles, obviously, which we'll put onto boil, soy sauce, and I'm using sesame oil today. You can just use vegetable oil or sunflower oil, rapeseed oil, but the sesame oil just has that very authentic flavour to it. It really brings out all those Chinese flavours. So if you have that, give it a try because it really does work. So first of all, I'm going to pop the noodles on. So I'm just using the dry, I've got thin egg noodles, but you can use medium ones as well. Pop those into a pan. I've pre-boiled my kettle and I'm going to put it on number 6 until it comes back to that active boil before reducing it to a simmer. And the brilliant thing with noodles, dried noodles, is they're not like pasta. They only take 3 or 4 minutes and then they are done. So that will then just be drained and it'll be ready to be stir fried into the final product. So vegetables first of all, with regards to preparation. We want to avoid cross-contamination, so we're going to use the red board, and I've got my red knife to use for the chicken. I'm going to do that at the end. I'm going to do all of the vegetable preparation first of all. So with the Pak Choi, if you've got spinach, try and use the chiffonade method. So if this was all separated, I would then be rolling it back up and cutting through for the chiffonade. But because it's all contained together, I'm going to just be slicing through the leaves. And it just creates two different textures within the stir fry. So you've got the nice wilted leaves that will be in the stir fry, and then you've got the crunchy texture of the white stalks as well. You just cut through until you get to the root, and then obviously discard the root. So I'm just going to use my colander for waste, just to keep my area tidy. With the spring onions, obviously I'll just prepare one on camera. We're just going to peel the outer layer. We are going to use claw grip and take the root off, and then we're going to squeeze along until it's hollow, get rid of that, and then we're going to cut it on an angle so that we are getting that a longer version of the spring onion. It can provide a different texture, different appearance to the stir fry. So we'll do that with all of the spring onion. With the pepper, I'm going to put it in long strips. So bridge hold, cutting through the pepper in half, using bridge hold all the way along. Open it up, and then we're going to put our hands inside to remove the stalk. So we just pull the stalk out, and then this part, as long as there's no seeds in it, cut from the inside. The outside of the skin obviously is quite tough, so it's harder to cut from the outside. So if you cut from the inside using claw grip, and I'm always going to roll the pepper. So as I move back, I'm going to just make sure the part I'm cutting is on the chopping board. And if these strips are really, really long, you may want to just cut them in half. But we do want long, thin strips today. So if it's a little bit like that one, you might want to just cut it in half so it's like that. So put the pepper like so. And then finally, with the carrot, I'm just going to peel it. So I'm going to peel away from myself, so I'm not coming down towards my wrist with the peeler, just for safety reasons. Make sure I've got rid of all of the skin to start with. Turn both sides. And then I'm actually going to continue to use the peeler to prepare the carrot. The carrot is a root vegetable, it's a hard vegetable. Stir frying is a very, very quick process. So obviously, if we put it in there in big chunks, it's not going to cook, it's not going to have a great texture, it's going to be very, very hard on the palate. So by doing this, we're almost getting ribbons, a little bit like you would with a spiralizer. So now that I know there's no skin left on it, I'm over the chopping board, I'm just going to carry on. I'm not moving the carrot at all. Be very careful of your knuckle. Don't start too close to your knuckle. Start further down. You can always turn the carrot away. And I'm going to go through until I get to the centre. And what I'm creating is these little strips which will stir fry really, really easily and add a lovely texture and flavour to the stir fry as well as colour. We're not worrying about it having to be boiled and cut first. So keep going all the way along to create these ribbons of carrot. If you want to, you can turn it around and do shorter ones at the other end, just to get rid and not waste any. You may as well use the whole carrot if you can. Obviously when it gets very thin in the centre, you might want to just stop at that point. Ooh. Or when it snaps is a good time to start. You can obviously eat that part if you want to. We've now got these lovely long ribbon strips. So that will be our vegetables prepared. And then I'll move on. I'm going to finish off with the rest of the spring onions and we'll move on to do the chicken. So now my vegetables are prepared, the noodles are now ready. So I'm just going to quickly drain those. So I've emptied my colander and just set them to one side. They can be reheated once we have the stir fry complete and all the chicken is cooked. So quickly drain this and then just leave it, and that can cool on the draining board. Just before I do the meat, obviously I forgot I need to show you about the garlic. So obviously this is a a bulb of garlic, and the cloves are the inside part. So what you want to do to get a clove out of the bulb is look for where it goes down into a dint. So obviously it goes into the humps, and you just put your knife between there, and you can literally just twist your knife. So you're just turning the handle and it will break through the cloves, and then obviously you can just use one of those. And with the clove we are taking the top and the bottom off, and then it will remove this kind of tissue paper type texture that's on there, and it will just reveal the clove on the inside, which will have a little bit more of a sticky texture to it. So you know that you've actually peeled it all when it's slightly yellowy cream and it's sticky rather than having that shiny paper texture. And then all I'm going to do is just put a few few cuts through, not going all the way through. So I'm just putting a few separate ones like so. And then I'm going to do a couple of horizontal ones, again, not going all the way through, and then I'm going to cut through it. If you have got a garlic press, then that's absolutely fine. I just don't like to use them because it's just another thing to clean, and they're not the most easy thing to clean unless you've got one of the ones where it's completely moulded. If you've got all the little bits that go in it, it can be a real faff to clean it. So just dicing that up as small as we can. And then I'm going to move on to the ginger. So the ginger, you can see here, it's called root ginger. It looks like a root because that's what it is. It grows in the ground. And we need, normally they'll say that you need an inch or 2.5 centimetres of ginger. So I'm going to just cut through it. So I only need to use half. You'll notice inside it's very yellow. It smells amazing as well. And then you're just going to cut the outer skin away from the ginger, all the way around. So using the claw grip while you're doing this, peel all the way around, a little bit like we would have done the kiwi fruit preparation in year 7. Chop the top off it so that you are left with, hopefully, a piece of ginger that just looks like so. One little bit there. And then discard the extra bits and we just grate it. Now it's a really fibrous product, so you will end up with bits left over, really. It's almost like lots and lots of little hairs. You can just discard that part. And what we want to do is go through and use everything that comes through the bottom. So just be careful when you're grating, that you're not grating your fingertips. Once it gets close to your fingers, it might be that you want to try and use the palm of your hand, or if you look at me, I'm actually using my flat of my fingers against it, just so that I don't grate my fingers. Right, all the way through, and what you're getting underneath is lots and lots of very, very moist pieces of ginger. You will notice here, I'm kind of left with this hairy kind of bit that you don't really want to eat. It's not got a very nice texture. So once you get down to just that bit, you can discard that part away and use what's gone through the grater. So now set that to one side and move on and start doing the chicken. So I've got scissors and I've also got my red knife just to show you both ways. So we're going to put it into long strips today. So if you're using scissors, you can just snip into the long strips. This is the mini fillet underneath, so just being careful because it has got that tendon running through the centre. You can see here a little white tendon that we don't want, so you want to try and just cut that part away. Scissors go through it really easily. Or you can pull it out if you want to as well. If you're using a knife, just remember you've got the sawing action, so you're pressing it down and really sawing through because of obviously the chicken being quite slimy, quite tough when it's raw. You want to cut into long strips. So I'll continue doing this now, and then obviously we can come back when all of the chicken is prepared and we can start the stir fry, which is a really, really quick process. Now that all the vegetables and the chicken is prepared, I'm going to start the stir frying process. So I'm going to pop some sesame oil, about a tablespoon, into the pan, and then I'm going to add the chicken in to fry first. Because it's such a quick dish, we do need to make sure that this chicken is thoroughly cooked. We need to make sure it's gone all the way through. So you cannot add any ingredients in until you know that that chicken is white all the way around. And then obviously the core part of the chicken will continue to cook as you stir fry the vegetables, and you know that you're not going to end up giving anyone food poisoning, which is not something that we would recommend. I'm going to add the chicken in to that oil, and then we're going to go onto a close-up once that chicken is cooked and white to show you the process of bringing the rest of the ingredients in. Now that the chicken is completely white, we can now move on to the other ingredients. So we're going to add the more harder vegetables first of all, rather than the leafy vegetables or those carrots. So I've got the Pak Choi, I've got the peppers, and I'm going to add in the spring onions. And we're going to stir fry those just for a couple of minutes, just to slightly soften them. And with the addition of the oil that's in there, the caramelisation process will start to occur, and those natural intrinsic sugars will start to be released, which will obviously add to the flavour of the stir fry. So we just add those just for a couple of minutes. And then the smaller vegetables like the garlic and the ginger can go in. We don't want those to burn, so they just go in for about 30 seconds to a minute. So obviously they're going to add flavour, but because they've got a small surface area, then they are going to burn very easily if we're not careful. So we do need to add those in just at the last minute, along with the ribbons of carrot and also the leafy edge of the Pak Choi, or if you've got spinach, you would add the spinach at that time as well, because those obviously don't need a lot of cooking. Should I put stalk in there? I don't want the stalk to the Pak Choi, that wouldn't be very palatable. We want a bit of crunch, but not that much. So once that's been in there for a minute or so, we can then add in our grated ginger. I can add in the garlic, and then finally I'm going to add in those lovely ribbons of carrot and the leaves of the Pak Choi. Add those into there, stir fry that round just for another minute or so. Obviously if you wanted a spicy stir fry, you could add in some diced chilli, or you could add in some chilli flakes. You would put the actual chilli, if it was fresh chilli, in with the peppers at the beginning to soften down. If it's the chilli flakes, you'd add it in with the ginger. And that would just add a different element to the flavour of your stir fry. So now that they've all been combined in, I'm going to just return the egg noodles to the pan. And I'm going to swap now. I'm going to start using the tongs instead to really loosen up the noodles, because obviously they have started to stick together as they've cooled. So we're just going to drag them up and really loosen them and start to move them around in the dish before we add our one final ingredient, and that will be soy sauce. And the soy sauce is quite a salty product. You can now buy low salt, but it still does have salt in it. So you may not need to season it with salt as well. At the end, you might just want to use the natural salt that's in the soy sauce. So with the soy sauce, what we're going to be doing is adding about a tablespoon into there. It will slightly change the colour, but it will add that real authentic flavour. And the traditional flavour for this, with us using garlic, ginger and soy sauce, is like a chow mein kind of flavour. That's what we're aiming for. So about a tablespoon into there, and then really bring that soy sauce through all the noodles, through the chicken, and we've got a really fresh, healthy, full of vitamins, high protein dish with our carbs in there as well with the noodles. So it's a really well balanced, healthy dish that the whole family can eat. Obviously I've not done spices in mine today, but as I said, you could put chilli in there as well. So that stir fry I will present for you as a final dish, and that is the meal done.